And so it is a great honor for us to have with us today the President of the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, Mr. Jimmy Williams.
I love them hats. That's pretty cool. Thanks for the kind words, Rick. If it's okay with the room, I like to speak from my heart. I don't ever really have any prepared text. I think far too often our movement likes to script itself a little too much. So if it's okay with the room, I want to be kind of frank today. It's an absolute pleasure. First off, it's an honor to be able to address the Texas AFL-CIO's convention. It's a pleasure to work with Rick and Leonard and the team. And, I think Texas has such amazing opportunities to lead the way in how we grow our labor movement and how we expand our labor movement. Far too often the South was written off when it comes to unions investing and putting organizing resources into states like Texas, Louisiana, Florida, Georgia. But I am of the belief, and I truly believe this, I was the organizing director of our union for 12 years, that the new labor movement is going to come from the South, and we're going to rise from the South. And I believe that in my heart because workers have been abused for far too long in the South. Our union, the Painters Union, has invested considerable resources in trying to figure out the best way to organize immigrant workers into our construction trades. We believe that a union for the 21st century has to be diverse. It has to look like the workforce that is out there today. There is so much talk around diversity, equity, and inclusion. You hear those words in just about every meeting you go to. And what I tell people is it's pretty simple. In the construction industry, people often talk about diversity as a number. Okay, we have to meet a goal, 20%, 30%, whatever that may be. I say diversity is a number. Equity is what we do in the labor movement through our collective bargaining agreements. It's our value, it's our core value. But inclusion, you can't measure inclusion. Inclusion is a feeling. It's how somebody feels when they join our organizations. And we have to really embrace change in how we treat our members, regardless of what they look like, regardless of where they come from, regardless of what gender they are. We have to embrace that inclusion as a movement. And I'm happy to say, and I'm proud to say, that our movement, our labor movement, is moving in the right direction. I firmly believe that. I was proud to cast a vote for Liz Shuler and Fred Redmond. The first woman president of the AFL-CIO and the first African-American secretary-treasurer of the AFL-CIO. It's very monumental. And I like to say, at this time, Liz was the shot in the arm our movement needed, and Fred was the kick in the ass we need sometimes too. Because we got to be honest with one another. And I give Liz all the credit in the world. And I have the honor to serve under Liz's leadership and Fred's leadership as the president of a union. And I get to serve as the youngest president of an international union as well. And our movement is changing in Washington, D.C. We're getting younger. We're getting more diverse. All the old, things that they used to label us as, they're out the window. It's time for us to meet workers where they are, not where we want them to be. And I think the leadership of the AFL-CIO is taking us in that direction. I have the honor to serve under Liz's leadership as the co-chair with AFT's president, Randy Weingarten, on Resolution 2, which was a resolution passed at the AFL-CIO to figure out how to strengthen our state feds and central labor councils. And I take that work serious because I believe that the strength of our labor movement comes from our state feds and central labor councils. And I believe that we have to rethink how we come together as a movement. And we have to do it in a way that unites all of us. What unites a teacher and a painter? What unites an electrician and a bus driver? What unites somebody who works in a hotel and works on a construction site? We have to get back to our basic values, which in our movement is solidarity. And in a state like Texas, where we know one union can't do it alone, we need each other more than anywhere else. And that's why we need to come together in each other's struggles and in each other's fights. We have to walk picket lines with one another. We have to take job actions with one another. We have to hit the streets and political organize with one another. And we cannot be divided in our own house. We have to be together. We have to be the example of what a labor movement's going to look like into the future. And we have to do so with an eye on where workers really are right now. You know, as an organizer, this time period that we live in is both scary and exciting. It's scary because our opponents have gotten more brazen each and every year. And you've seen it and you've felt it here in the state of Texas for decades. Others are just starting to feel it. But on a good note, workers, regardless of their political belief, approve of unions at a 71% rating right now in this country from coast to coast. And I'll go a step further. Young workers under the age of 30, 77%. And we have to take a real look at what this means to organize in this moment. You know, I like to consider myself an organizer still, and I can tell you we probably pulled off the largest organizing campaign in our history in the building trades recently, and it was done through political organizing by getting language passed like the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill, like the CHIPS and Science Act, and the Inflation Reduction Act. My entire adult life, I used to hold my nose and vote for a Democrat. I'd hold my nose because we never seen nothing coming our way. Now, we obviously couldn't vote the other way because that would be just stupid. But for once in our lifetime, we have a president of the United States who mentions the word union in every single speech that he gives. It used to be a dirty word. And I'll get in trouble sometimes for calling out the Democratic Party, but I think we got to call balls and strikes. I remember our president when he ran in 2008 and had the support of everybody in this room and in the labor movement and said, when workers are under attack, I'll walk picket lines with you. Well, guess what? When they came after us in Wisconsin, he was nowhere to be seen. Joe Biden is different. He is governing as a union man. Every single thing that he does, he puts us at the table. This is a unique moment in time. And we are going to head into an election next year that is going to decide our fate. And it's not the fate of just our labor movement. It is the fate of our country. We have a duty as union leaders and as union officials to cut through the noise and tell our members the truth. There's too much, fake news. I hate to even say it because the other guy used that word. But people are blinded and they're being torn apart because of all the issues that we stand in direct opposition of. We stand in direct opposition of misogyny. We stand in direct opposition of racism. We believe in equality in the labor movement. Our movement has to get moving when talking to our members because our members are being pulled apart. They're voting against their self-interest election after election. And I am scared to death to see what could happen if we don't hold the White House. Now, on a good note, I think people in Texas are fed up. I think average working people in Texas are smart enough to see what's going on here in this state. And I think that Texas can be the next Georgia. I really believe that. And in order to do that, we have to strengthen our state feds and CLCs to meet this moment. We just do. The Painters Union has always been a proud supporter of the AFL-CIO and the building trades at every level. We participate. We don't always agree, but we're at the table. And I got to tell you, we all have to come to the table at every level of our movement. The state feds, the central labor councils, every affiliate has to come together because our futures are at stake. It really is that critical. And I truly believe that the state of Texas can lead the way in showing the rest of the country how you flip a state that has been so anti-worker for generations into a state that can be a model for what the new labor movement should look like. And I'm here to tell you, you're in good hands with Rick. You're in good hands with the folks in this room. But you know what, folks? We got to get moving. We got to get moving today. We can't wait till tomorrow. We have to organize every day like our lives depend on it, because it does. And the last thing I'm going to say, and it's especially critical that we figure this out as a movement here in the state of Texas. Immigrant workers in this country have been abused and have been attacked for far too long. And I'm proud of the work that the Texas AFL-CIO does around, educating and providing immigration relief and resources to their unions, to their affiliates. Because listen, this is the future of our labor movement. We have a battle ahead of us. And that battle is to win dignity and respect for workers that have been treated wrong by this country for far too long. Texas is ground zero for that fight. And we have to figure it out as a movement. We have to figure it out together. We have to provide a pathway forward for thousands upon thousands of workers in our industries collectively. Our country has abused immigrant workers for far too long, and we have to stand up and stand with them in this fight. We have to show workers a path forward, not tell workers a path forward. We have to bring workers to us. We have to bring workers into our movement regardless of what they look like or where they come from. And we have to educate workers like we never have before, because I'm going to tell you, folks, they're ready. They're ready for us. They need us. There are horror stories in the construction industry, and your state is leading the way in trying to highlight these horror stories that exist. Folks working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, not getting paid, wage theft, not having water on the job site, people dying. Our movement was founded to fix that, and I believe the state of Texas can do that. Thank you all, brothers and sisters.